Howdy, everybody from Washington State. This is Randy Jimmy James Bowles coming to you, friends and neighbors. Not quite as cute looking as usual, not quite as youthful and youngish as usual, but that's because I'm doing an acting job today and I'm a method actor. This whole thing I'm doing on the YouTube is just an acting job. Well, an unpaid one, but an acting job. I don't just write my stories, I like to act them out. And today I'm playing the part of a retired Washington State coal miner because I just happen to have known one very well and I knew him before he was retired. That would be my daddy. I'm going to tell you his story here, and also I'm going to mention a little bit about a very tall Native American man I knew. And this is also more or less a Yakima story because it takes place in Roslyn, Washington, which is not that far from Yakima. So, all of my Yakima friends out there, consider this one of your stories too. Let's get started. It's got quite a lesson to it. The name of this story is Any Day Below Ground is a Good Day. Tom Thunder was the tallest Indian I ever met. He must have stood 6'8" in his bare feet. When I met him in 1981, he was all muscle, weighing in at somewhere around 280 pounds. He had a forceful personality that really suited his name. When I hung with Tom Thunder, I knew I needed to go with his flow. And I did. It just made things a lot easier. Tom hailed from Neah Bay, Washington State, home of the Makah tribe. He owned acres and acres of forest land up there, but he preferred living away from Neah Bay. He liked city life. He visited Neah Bay, or I visited Neah Bay in the mid-90s. Its business district was like 2 stores. Beautiful country, almost no development. I hear it's grown a bit since I last paid a visit. I was prone to moving house to different neighborhoods, so I didn't see Tom all that often. And then in the late 80s, I was shocked to hear he was in prison for something. For what, I don't know. Years went by. And when I finally bumped into him again, after he'd been paroled, I saw that Tom's health had seriously declined. His chest had become sunken. He moved much slower. He was bent over. He talked softly. He was no longer loud and boastful and in charge. From then on, whenever I ran into Tom, I could see his health slipping away more and more. One day I finally said something, or I asked him how he was feeling or something, and he said to me quietly, "Well, Randy, you know what they say, any day above ground is a good day." Well, that threw me because that's not what my daddy used to say. After that, whenever I saw Tom, whenever I inquired of him about his health, he'd always revert to his go-to figure of speech. "Well, Randy, any day above ground is a good day." And then one afternoon in Seattle, Washington, I ran into Gail, Tom's ex-wife. Yeah, Tom had gotten married to a hippie girl sometime in the mid-80s, but the marriage didn't take. They did have a son who seemed to take after Tom, named Chasen. Anyway, Gail said, "Randy, Tom Thunder died." I was really sad. I felt so bad. I felt bad for Jason, who was going to grow up without a father. I thought about Tom. I remembered his favorite catchphrase, "any day above ground." And then I thought of my daddy. My daddy, rest his old blessed soul, was a coal miner. For years he literally worked his fingers to the bone, 5 days a week for the Carter Coal Company in Roslyn, Washington. Yeah, you've heard of the town if you were a Northern Exposure fan. A good deal of the TV series was filmed there. The actual Roslyn was a town populated by coal miners and their families. The townsfolk didn't bother to paint their houses in Roslyn. The coal dust in the air would scour the paint right off the siding. So if you lived in another, more conventional burg, and you happen to drive through Roslyn, you would be shocked to see an entire town comprised of unpainted dwellings. Very strange to an outsider, I would imagine, but to Roslinians, it was normal. Why spend the time, energy, and money painting your house when it wasn't going to last? Nope, there was no Sherwin-Williams paint for sale at the local hardware store, that's for sure. Where was I? I'm over 74 now, and I tend to lose track of my train of thought. That is to say, the train runs off the track more often than not these days. Oh, I know. My daddy, the coal miner, was a happy man. He seemed to have been born with a smile on his face. Looking through our old, musty family photo albums, I dare say I never see one photo where Daddy didn't have at least a halfway grin on his coal dust-streaked face. He was the type who never let the little things get to him. Daddy was full of sayings. One of his favorites was that old saw, "Never sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff." But every once in a while, he could coin a phrase himself, one that would turn out to be pretty profound and unforgettable. One evening at dusk, when I was about 9 years old, that would make it 1958, Daddy and I were sitting out on the bare, unpainted front porch of our two-bedroom house, him with his hot cup of coffee, me with my cup of cocoa. I asked him just what was the secret to his happiness. He said, "Well, I have a purpose in life. Of course, I have your mom and you and your brother to take care of, but I also have a job to do. I know where I'm going to be 5 out of every 6 mornings. The same place as your grandfather and your uncle before before the cave-in. I'm going to be getting in that elevator and going down to the office. I'll be with my shift buddies. I'll be where I belong. I'll be in a place that's totally familiar to me. I'll have my lunchbox with that ham sandwich and thermos of soup your mom fixes for me. I'll have the sounds of the mining equipment and that smell that you can't find anywhere else on earth." Simply put, Randy, and I want you to remember this, any day below ground is a good day. Thanks, everybody. And don't forget, any day below ground is a good day.